$1,500 dorm debate contest absolutely free to join.
$1,500.
Yep, and first place gets $100.
And it's free to enter.
Completely free.
Tell me more.
So the contest is through Game Blazers, and all you have to do is be at least 18 years old and in one of the 41 available states.
How do I join?
Bro, well, don't get dehydrated. Just go to the link in our bio, click the Game Blazers link, and join our free contest.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dorm Debate Podcast, and welcome to our Week 9 preview episode and our trade deadline episode. The trade deadline, as we were filming it, was today at 4 o'clock on Halloween, and we have some trades that we're going to look at. I mean, I was expecting just radio silence for today, but we got a little bit of movement, and we have a guy that we're first going to talk about that's been traded 3 times already. And if you saw my TikTok, you're going to know who I'm talking about. And if you haven't seen it, go over to our TikTok at Dorm Debate Podcast. And it's quarterback Joshua Dobbs. This guy just cannot stay on a team no matter what he does. He plays amazing for the Cardinals in just 2 weeks of preparation. And yes, he didn't get the wins, but he was playing extremely well. What do? They bench him and they trade him. I feel bad for Joshua Dobbs, but let's get into all the news. I'll kind of say it all in one go, and then we can discuss. So the biggest news, and one that we were talking about on our last podcast, was who were the Vikings going to replace Kirk Cousins with? And that answer is now Joshua Dobbs. Quarterback Joshua Dobbs was traded to the Vikings. It was Joshua Dobbs and a 2024 7th-round pick to the Vikings in exchange for a 2024 6th-round pick. Now, the current Vikings quarterback is Jaren Hall, who will start against the Falcons, and the Cardinals are now ramping up Kyler Murray to come back and plan to start after the Browns game, where Clayton Tune is most likely to start. Now, right off the bat, let's talk about Joshua Dobbs, because we had that blind QB comparison 2 weeks ago, maybe, and he was playing just as well as a guy like Geno Smith, who we compared him to. Sure, the wins weren't coming, but like we said, the Cardinals aren't trying to win anyway. So emotions,
they got rid of him.
Yeah,
emotions.
Like,
you're winning
aside,
too much.
Like,
we're trying to tank.
Like, maybe that's it. Like, you got to chill out. He was not chilling out. He had like 24 fantasy points last week. I mean, they probably were like, dude, we're not trying to win. What, like, get that through your head. Like, we'll trade you.
He was playing with fire, like, in terms of, I mean, maybe in terms of the result, but like, to see him as a backup and the role he was filling, he was at least giving hope to that team.
The rushing ability for Joshua Dobbs gives him that like little tiny X factor that you could say, hey, he's better than that Colt McCoy, or he's better than that Nick Mullins because of that ability and his intangibles to learn a playbook so quick. So if we rewind, Joshua Dobbs basically is the perfect fit for the Vikings if you want to win now. And the reason for that is because he was signed to the Titans last season, December of last season, and in just 8 days, he started for them. And then he gets traded to the Cardinals, and I think it was like 2 weeks or one week and a half until the season started. What does he do? He gets on the team, starts a week and a half later for the Cardinals, and does great. And same for the Titans. They ended up making the playoffs, or they were about to make the playoffs, and they lost to the Jags. But like, they were in playoff contention with Dobbs. So for the Vikings, John, do you see this as the better option? If anything, this is the best tradable option, because a lot of people said Jameis Winston, and they were like, oh, Jacoby Brissett. But the intangibles for Dobbs is what separates him.
Yeah, I think this is a great trade for both sides. And you mentioned it's a 2024 6th-round pick. So the Vikings got him for an absolute steal. But also the Cardinals, they wanted to get rid of him because Kyler's about to come back. Now, Clayton Tune, it seems like he's going to be starting this week. But Kyler's going to be back within the next couple weeks. And they know that Kyler is the franchise guy for now. Dobbs isn't. And not that they have any chance to make the playoffs this season. I guess it's still possible, but they want Kyler to be the guy and to, try to get his feet wet, I guess, again this season coming back from that ACL if they're going to keep him for next season. So it makes sense for the Cardinals. It makes even more sense for the Vikings because they still have a chance to make the playoffs. They're 4-4. They're just behind the Lions in the division. Now, it seems like the Lions have that lead, but, there's 3 wild card spots, so they could still make the playoffs. And Dobbs, he has 11 total touchdowns on the year. That's the same amount as Dak Prescott, and that's more than Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Geno Smith, C.J. Stroud. This guy's no scrub. We've seen him play. He can win games like we've seen, and we've seen him put up fights against the Cowboys, against the Giants. The Vikings, and I think in terms of fantasy purposes, it helps Justin Jefferson coming back. When Kirk Cousins got hurt, I know it was going through my head like, oh, now Jefferson won't come back because their season's over. But now getting Dobbs, it's going to help Addison from it's not an upgrade from Kirk Cousins, but it's an upgrade from Nick Mullins or Dayton Hall or Sean Mannion or whoever else they were going to get.
The alternative.
Yeah, and honestly, we didn't really know that Dobbs wasn't going to be an option for them until recently when they literally, after the game on Sunday, they said that Dobbs isn't going to start next week. And everybody's kind of like, well, what do you mean? Like, why is he not going to start? And now maybe they were already thinking about trades or whatever. But no, I'm excited for the Vikings. And I'm excited to see him probably not this week, probably next week. But he's a baller, and I'm excited to see what he could do for them for fantasy purposes as well.
Well, in a small way, how quickly they got rid of him. It's like how much they want to commit to Kyler when he's playing well enough that people are like not rolling their eyes, but they're like squinting, like, oh, maybe Dobbs could be something we could do
right,
here.
But that's why I'm curious. Like 6th round pick, like they just didn't value him at all. Like 6th round is a guy you're probably gonna pick up and throw in your practice squad. Like
disrespectful almost. His stories, like even when he got to the Cardinals, they didn't have him. I mean, I know those systems take a while to update, but there's videos of him like not being, like his name not listed among the team. And I remember.
I think after the first game he started, he went to like the team store or something. And there was no jersey. Like he didn't have a jersey yet.
What's going on? I mean, organizationally, I know those systems take some time. I MIS, whatever. I get it, but still, you got to get someone to do that. And it's just, I mean, you look at that instance, and then they're giving it away for a 6th round pick. I was elated to see this. Now I'm always going to be, especially while the Eagles are in it, I'm rooting for the Eagles. But I was thinking, my tone has softened a lot on Kirk ever since this happened, because I think he's a great guy, and that's the respect of your team, and as a man is like probably the best thing you can walk away with the NFL from. I hope he doesn't. But saying all season, like all the Vikings' troubles have not been on Kirk, and this one season's the one where they were looking away from him. So I was gutted. But I was a week or two ago, just thinking like, what would be the quarterbacks if it wasn't going to be the Eagles for me? What are the quarterbacks that would be the wildest that could like hypothetically win or go to the Super Bowl? And imagine if they won, what the storyline for their career would change. And Kirk was one of them. Like I was just like, was it probably going to happen? No. But I was just like, how much, how interesting to play that thought game. And what I said last week was, at least like as the Vikings, as a commentator, if you will, a critic or enjoyer of good football, I did not want the Vikings to get a guy like Colt McCoy, like a guy that you just know what you're going to get out of, that are journeyman quarterbacks that will do well enough, but are clearly like very small C conservative. Don't mess this up. Let our guys around you do well. And that kind of thinking in the NFL, at least at this kind of way the teams are playing now. I mean, not that it's ever been popular, but that was not going to do anything with the Vikings. So a guy like Joshua Dobbs, as you guys call Dobbs, I think that's a great one.
Dobbs.
He shows that grit, that fire that I like to see. Not to say he put up the best stats, but Geno Smith was a backup for a while, and like if he's putting up Geno Smith's stats in some way where they didn't write him back, and he's written, like that gives me at least some hope if I'm a Vikings fan. That, not saying he's going to be better than Kirk, like you said, but at least the ceiling is question mark in this first year where teams don't know how to compete against Dobbs, versus Kirk was playing the best of his career, but teams have had the benefit of seeing how he uses his weapons in the Vikings. Now that they have Dobbs, like it's part of me is like, what's the X factor in terms of what he can bring, but also that teams don't know how he's going to use the weapons around him. Maybe the Vikings start to elevate potentially. Now Probably not, but at least this kind of pick for the cost they were to be able to get him at and the play that he's been able to bring, at least brings some hope to the organization. It shows as a fan that they're probably not throwing away the season, which is encouraging because these guys are not getting any younger. So I was very pleased. I didn't, like you said, I didn't know he was on the market. It makes sense in hindsight.
It
I
does.
probably like him better than Winston, but I was just like, as a fan of good football, I'm like, hey, it's a little early for the Wentz Foles comparison, but this at least is something interesting to watch with the Vikings versus someone else that's like, all right, we know what you're gonna bring to us.
I
We're
think
just
what
waiting
it
for a
was,
pick.
Yeah, what it was. I did think about what you said, Caleb, last podcast, where like, don't get the Colt McCoys, don't get the Nick Mullins, or
Please.
yeah, like, don't do that if you're trying to win. Like if you're trying to win, go
Exactly.
out and try and get a game changing guy. And there weren't many available.
Yeah.
This Joshua Dobbs becomes available, and like it's the greatest thing because he is the biggest question mark. He could play really, really well, or he could play really, really bad. But what I think is the biggest thing no one's talking about, he was doing all these stats with Marquise Brown, Zach Ertz, and who else? Rondale Moore, Michael Wilson. Now Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson.
Cam Akers might elevate.
Cam Akers, even KJ Osborne is a great receiver, veteran
interesting.
receiver. Like now you've upgraded his whole supporting cast. Now
Yeah.
let's really see what you can do. You basically upgraded every position. Now instead of Ertz and McBride, now you're throwing to TJ Hawkinson, like one of the best tight ends.
Yeah,
So
sure.
okay, now let's really see what you're about, Dobbs, because we all know we can learn a playbook. He can learn a playbook like that. Give him a week. Give him 2 weeks. He's got the playbook down. But it's going to be even faster now because last season with the Titans, who were his receivers? Nobody. Still nobody. Then
Yeah,
you go to
AJ
the
Brown
Cardinals.
was- yeah.
Cardinals were a slight upgrade with Marquise Brown and Zach Ertz, but now you even upgrade even more. Let's see what he can do. And it's super exciting to see. I think it's a matter of the Cardinals saying, hey, Kyler Murray's about to be back, and you're too good of a quarterback to sit on the bench. So they probably just said, we're gonna trade you, and the Vikings are interested in a quarterback. So go play the rest of the season instead of sitting on our bench doing nothing, and we're gonna get some value for you because you're playing at a high level right now. So it's just timing. Obviously, the business side of it does suck because Dobbs probably felt like he found a good home at least for the season, and then it's not even the full season and he gets traded again, so it does suck. But he did send out a tweet saying like let's get it going or something like that, like #school. So he's in high spirits. It's not his first trade, and he's gonna do very well for the Vikings, I think. One team that you guys all hate, the Commanders, were probably the biggest sellers of today. They trade away defensive end Montez Sweat, and they trade away defensive end Chase Young. Both were on expiring contracts, and some may say that they weren't going to come back. They were unrestricted free agents after the season. So I guess they just wanted to get something for them, and the Commanders have not had the best year, so maybe Chase Young and Sweat were leaning. Yeah, they were like leaning towards, you know what? We're going to test free agency. I want to go to a contender, something like that. So the trades that went down, Montez Sweat traded to the Bears for a 2024 second-round pick, and Chase Young traded to the 49ers for a 2024 third-round pick. Chase Young was the second overall pick and has been doing pretty well since he came back from injury. He's got 5 sacks, not terrible at all. And you're trading him for a third-round pick. Doesn't really compute in my head. But as you look at this Commanders team, John, complete sellers. You lose Sweat, you lose Young, but you potentially have a franchise quarterback. It looks like they're just stocking draft picks and doing a complete rebuild.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, they kind of know that how the team is right now, it's not going to be able to succeed. I mean, even with those two guys, I mean, Chase Young, you said 5 sacks this season. Sweat has 6.5 sacks. Even with that, they weren't really having any great games. And Caleb, you've talked about this Washington Commanders defense in the past, like, oh, you better watch out, like they can, win any game. And it still feels like the Commanders could win any game because they played the Eagles tough twice, but it's not because of their defense. They let the Eagles score 30 plus each time. So I don't think that they realize that this defense is not great. And Jared, you made a great point. Like, they're unrestricted free agents. So like they could get to the end of the year and maybe based on the talks and negotiations they've already started with these players, they're like, oh shit, we're probably not going to be able to keep these guys. So let's see what we can get for them. So Sweat, 6.5 sacks in 8 games. Chase Young has played 7 games, has 5 sacks. So they got pretty decent value for him, I guess. But yeah, they're just selling. I mean, they're stocking up draft picks, and that's about it. I'm excited to see what Chase Young can do in San Francisco.
It's crazy.
Last year, he didn't have any sacks. The year before, when he got injured, he only had a sack and a half in like 7 or 8 games or something like that. So I want to see how he comes back because he's still coming back from that injury, really. So, but if he could play well, that 49ers defense is going to be even better.
Or at least depth for the 49ers D-line. I mean, that's what I think I say this every year, but I think what makes the Eagles so competitive outside of being a pretty well-respected and well-organized organization is having a D-line that can be really aggressive, that you can get blitzes and pressure with 4 men up front. Right. And part of that is depth. So the Saints are serious. Not that they weren't before, but this is a big boy move in my eyes that a lot of teams try. But them doing that's crazy. Do you guys think was it the Bears that got the second round for Sweat?
Yeah.
Is that what? I mean, in my head, the numbers are one thing. In my head, it feels like Chase should have been valued higher. Almost like I saw memes about the Bears not negotiating hard enough.
It's like I was just telling.
Did you guys
John,
think they got fleeced or?
I was telling John earlier. I was like, dude, that's when you like are in
Sweat
Madden.
came first. Yeah,
no, you go on to Madden and you like pick a player and you're like, I think he might be valued at like a 2nd round pick, and then the trade accept, the bar goes all the way up, and it's like, yeah, we'll take it, and you're like, oh frick, I should have went with like a 4th. Like you send it thinking that's they're not gonna take it, and they take it, and you're like, oh crap. So like the 49ers with Shanahan,
it seemed like that.
Dude, the thing was, the 49ers, they're like, we don't need him. So, like,
Exactly.
you're the one that's trying to get value for him before he walks. So, we'll throw you this and see if you take it. And that's probably the best offer that he could have got. And then the Bears, I guess people said that this is going to be a free agency thing. Like, you get to get him to the team, and then when he goes into free agency, you have a better chance of getting Sweat. So they think,
but really, you're going to give up a 2nd round pick for that?
Yeah, they think they can win him over.
But the thing is, you're kind of rebuilding. You need those picks. You need a 2nd round pick. Could be like a receiver for Fields. Like,
well, Sweat's slightly younger, slightly better stats, but he was the first in the news. There's a lot of moving parts for sure, but it seemed like his was first.
Right. Yeah.
So like, I feel like if I'm the Bears, I'm like, really? Like, are you serious? I think they got fleeced. I just think he's a younger dude. Maybe health is a factor, but again, like you guys are saying, I I think the Bears just got they got a great player for sure, but just in comparative value, I think they're like shaking their heads, like, man, we messed up, guys.
Yeah.
Exactly what you were saying, Jared. Where it's like, cause they still want him, but not to have given up. Because like John, you're saying they could be trying, to build, and they could that pick have been used in a better spot, is what they'll be asking.
And also, like, does it even make sense? Like, last season they trade away Roquan Smith at the trade deadline. So like you were a season ago, you were just trading defensive players, and they had a cornerback, was it Jalen Johnson or somebody requested a trade, and they didn't trade him in the trade deadline to this today. So. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with this team, but it's a mess. It's an actual mess right now. But
49ers definitely won, I think.
Oh yeah, I mean, they saw Brock Purdy lose 3 games, and they're like, "We need more defense. We need help. We need more help. Get the 2nd overall pick. Let's go."
We can't be trailing by 8+ points in the 4th quarter anymore.
Moody can't make a goddamn kick. Put more defense in. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. It's not fair. That's what I said. I texted you guys, said it's not fair to send a 3rd round pick. 3rd round pick for the 49ers is nothing. That's going to be like pick 200.
That is crazy.
As a Michigan fan, I have to talk about this. Donovan Peoples-Jones traded back to his hometown Detroit Lions. He played high school ball in Detroit, and he played at University of Michigan, and now he's back home, was traded from the Browns to the Lions for a 2025 sixth-round pick. I said in our earlier podcast that the Lions should be buying a receiver. I thought it was going to be Hunter Renfrow. Didn't know DPJ was available. I knew that the Browns weren't using him at all, honestly. But they also don't have a great quarterback. But I thought they were going to get Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow just doesn't even get moved. Devontae Adams doesn't even get moved from the Raiders. Raiders just don't know what they're doing. They're too complacent. But I'm so happy. That makes me even more happy that DPJ is going to the Lions, because if you watch last game with the Lions on Monday night, a lot of Lions fans are getting frustrated at Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams, the receiver out of Alabama, obviously had this suspension and all that stuff, but he came back and he's had a lot of drops, and he's not as good as people want him to be at this stage of his career. And so DPJ, I think, is a guy that you can plug in right now. And like I said with Hunter Renfrow, veteran guy, he's been around the block. He can play ball. He's a deep threat. He's a great receiver. And he's at the stage where if you need to rely on him in a playoff deep run, you can. But you can't do the same with Jameson Williams at this point. And he's proven that with the amount of drops that he's had. The Lions probably look at him and say, hey, Jameson Williams would be a great deep threat, and we need a deep threat. But he's at the stage of his career, not where he needs to be. And we are in the stage where we need to get to the playoffs and contend for a Super Bowl. And DPJ is going to do that. He's going to fill Jameson Williams' spot and be that guy that they can rely on. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I think, like you said, Jameson has definitely been struggling, and they have Josh Reynolds, but he's more of a complement to Amon-Ra St. Brown. So if St. Brown, he's always questionable. If he misses, Reynolds kind of steps into the slot. But also Marvin Jones, who they had on the team, they got back from the Jaguars. So Marvin Jones returned this season. He's stepping away from football. So that actually happened a week ago. So maybe since then they're missing that outside receiver. They have Laporta, they have Amon-Ra, but they both work the middle of the field. So they're looking for that out wide receiver. Jameson coming back from injury, kind of dropping passes. Marvin Jones, stepping away from football. They're like, okay, well, what are we going to do on the outside? And that's why they went the route of DPJ rather than a guy like Renfrow. So I agree with the move. Yeah, it seems like Elijah Moore's being used more than DPJ in Cleveland. So I like it. I'm excited to see what he can do in terms of fantasy. I don't think he's going to be that relevant. Maybe not too relevant the rest of the year. The thing is, the good thing about DPJ is he could go really deep or he could run some intermediate routes. So Jameson Williams, we feel like he's maybe one of those just, run straight type of guys. He hasn't really developed a route tree yet, but DPJ has. So I'm excited to see how they use him.
Yeah, you're pretty close on the mark there with Hunter Renfrow. Just the fact that they had a need in some area, and I think John summed it up really well. I mean, Reynolds had some great plays, and Amon-Ra is a special guy, but you do want to see some durability or depth, at that position. So a guy like Donovan Peoples-Jones, you saw how well. I agree with John that it's not game-changing, but it fills the slot the Lions could really use to complement the whole team. And I just think back to how well Baker seemed to have used him when he was on the Browns compared to his current role. So it's like he has a interesting ceiling there that I think it really does open up a lot of the defense in the ways John described. So I like it a lot for the Lions, and certainly considering the factors that they're entering into, I think it just adds depth and shows that they're serious, and gives them that kind of security when and if Amon-Ra is not available or Reynolds isn't available. Wide receiver is one of the toughest positions to play. So it's like this is a great pick, but does bring back to how I'm a little gutted for Devontae. Did you guys feel hurt at all by Devontae Adams not getting traded after he had one reception Monday night? Is that true?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I heard the Raiders said there's no chance in hell that he gets traded.
We talked about this
Then
at
use
the
him.
beginning. Well, yeah, like it's like with the with the
Well, they
Falcons
tried.
coach not
Garoppolo
wanting.
just sucks. He couldn't get the ball to him.
I think I remember saying we'll have to go in the archives, but just talking about how much they might miss Derek Carr, and not only because of the chemistry he had with Devontae Adams, but like a lot of those throws I think Carr would make.
Well, he came to the Raiders for Derek Carr, like
Exactly,
and they upset Derek Carr and bench him, and you're like,
Yeah,
now
trade him away.
indirectly hurting Devontae Adams' relationship. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess.
How special he is, dude. Yeah, they're wasting him. I mean, oh my goodness, to have those stats, it's like he talks about a lot about not being able to say anything without getting in trouble. And I think he's a professional in that respect. But part of the argument I think that I saw is like not a prideful one, but knowing when you're the guy in the team and just wanting more targets because that's how your team wins. It's like it sounds egotistical, but
I think what's tough about it is it that hard to game plan for Devontae Adams? Is it that hard? Like, at the bare minimum, look at what Will Levis did. I guarantee you D-Hop came up to him and said, yo, just throw it up to me, and I'll make a play.
yeah.
Like, and Devontae and Garoppolo should do the same thing. Just throw it up to me in an area where I can catch
putting it in the vicinity.
He's throwing it
balls.
out of bounds. It's terrible.
And it's like everyone knows what to do about the Raiders except the Raiders apparently, because even before the season we on the podcast are like they're gonna miss Derek Carr, and why are they keeping the head coach's name the McDaniels, who is like repeatedly proven all the ex-Patriots experiments have failed. He still failed, and they still kept him. And so the only ones who don't know what to do are the Raiders organization, because they're like, oh, we have. I just don't know what the solution is. Is basically what they're saying.
Yeah,
when it's like, just listen to us at least.
And we have
He's
no
so much better
problem, staring tunnel vision at Jacoby Myers and using him 10+ receptions. Like, oh, former
got
Patriot. Oh, I love you, Jacoby Myers. Yeah, we're
It's
former
not worked
Patriots.
for any other organization outside of the Patriots.
Yeah, like, dude, come on.
I saw something that who Deron Bland is.
I've heard the name.
Cornerback for the Cowboys.
Okay.
Mhm.
So he had a pick six against not against Hurts. Who did they
Garoppolo?
play?
Fields?
I don't know, but he had a pick against Stafford.
Oh, okay.
He has the same amount of touchdowns as Devontae Adams this season.
Oh gosh.
So he has 3 pick sixes and Devontae has 3 touchdowns in
That's
8
crazy.
games.
That's crazy for a
Oh.
cornerback, and it's also just ridiculous considering it's Devontae Adams. He is
And I think
like
how
that's
many of those
wild.
touchdowns happened in like one game where he had like 30?
Well, he had 2 in that Monday nighter against the Steelers. So he has disregarding that one game, he has 1 touchdown in 7 games.
Oh gosh.
It's just sad, and it's tough because he's been very transparent about he's proud to be a Raider in the respects, but like, as a team, why he came. What are you doing? He doesn't say you have to train him to the
I know,
Saints.
you can't just get him a screen pass or something, like anything.
Third and long, at least give him a screen pass. That's the textbook for every coach.
Yeah.
Like, no, but we knew this. It's only the Raiders that were like, I think, literally on the off season, the owner was like, yeah, we're keeping McDaniels, and that's the fact that they were fielding those questions about getting rid of him. It's just the chickens come home to roost. They no one else is surprised outside of the Raiders.
No. The last team I'll go over quick is Packers cornerback Rasul Douglas traded to the Bills. Douglas and a 2024 5th-round pick in exchange for a 2024 3rd-round pick. So this is big for many reasons. Tre'Davious White, cornerback, out for the season. Linebacker Matt Milano, out for the season. So the defense was struggling. I think they needed some extra support. And Rasul Douglas, from what I've seen on Twitter, is a guy that doesn't really have much injury history. He's a fairly healthy guy, so they can feel like they can rely on him as we get into the playoffs once he starts learning some
He's good
playbook. So
former Eagle.
Oh, is he really?
He's got a ring.
He got drafted by the Eagles.
Did he play, or was he just on the team?
No, he
He
you watched the
played.
Super Bowl highlights. He's there.
Oh,
He's got a
wow.
ring.
Oh, dang.
He's no
okay.
scrub. I think surely there's reasons beyond my understanding why the Eagles didn't keep him, but He's a legit guy. He's that's why I remember the name.
Well, this will help the Bills. I think that this will be a
Exactly,
really great thing.
Bring some winning energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love the trade. I like it more for the Bills. I don't know why the Packers would want to give him up. He has and 1 interception this season. He had 4 last year, 5 in 2021 with 2 pick sixes. So this guy's good. Every time you watch the Packers, Jair is usually touted as like the top guy, but Rasul Douglas makes plays. He's a playmaker. So I really like it for the Bills. Jared, you said they lost Tre'Davious White. I don't think this changes that much, though, for the Bills. It's not going to be like, oh, now they have a shutdown corner. It's not like that. He's probably their best cornerback now. I know they have Benford and Taron Johnson, but I think Rasul Douglas is probably their best one now.
I'd agree.
So I think it helps both. I think it helps both teams. I don't like it for the Packers. I think they should have kept him, but for the Bills, it's a great move. It's definitely a piece that they needed.
If anything, the Packers are accepting it's a building year.
Right.
I don't know how much I've seen of Love to convince. Not to say it's just in terms of the record at this point and things like that. It's like, are they on a trajectory to make it for a wild card or things like that? I think they're starting to think about the future.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Let's get into Lock and Upset. So,
Oh boy.
The Lock and Upset standings, I was just going to check it right now because I forgot to post it. But we have, oh man. So John and Caleb both went 2-0 again. You guys
fun.
cannot be separated.
Caleb, I will
We're having
not
fun.
miss, so you better keep getting it.
It sounds like you're nervous. It sounds like
I'm
you're
not nervous at all. I want last pick again.
12 and 4.
I know how you compete. I'm used to this.
We're
No,
both 12 and 4. That's
We're
amazing.
having fun. That actually is crazy. That's wild.
I've gotten my what is this 6 straight weeks I've gotten my upset pick?
5.
5.
So
Okay.
10 and 4. You went 2-2 last, or 12 and 4, 2-2 last, or 2-0 last week. Caleb 2-0 last week. Now he's 12 and 4. Jonathan 1-1. He's 9 and 7. And then I went 0 and 2. So that's
sorry,
5 and 11.
5 and 11.
So
That's crazy. I liked your video of the Chiefs. Just oh my
I thought that
goodness,
was good.
That's crazy. Of all the weeks,
So now I'm just going to try and test this and see how far my powers will take me. For my lock, I'm going to go with a team that just got shellacked. The team they're away, and they have a Division II quarterback. So I'm going with the New Orleans Saints to defeat the Chicago Bears -7.5 spread.
What should God do if you get it wrong?
I gave you mercy last week. I wouldn't. I would just be quiet.
I just wouldn't say anything.
I just humble yourself.
I don't even know.
You just gotta take the L.
That's crazy. They were talking so much about. It was on the Bears at the D2 Bajan, whatever.
Bajan.
Baguette.
Yeah.
Put some butter on it and toast
The way
it.
he played fine, but the way the commentators were talking about him, I'm like, all right, Fields is the starter for a reason, and they were like buttering up Baguette, and it's like, all right, why are you like? There was some point where like,
Get off
he
your
should-
knees for this man.
I was surprised. He's playing fine, but like they were down by like a touchdown or two, and they're like, Fields would really take some notes from Bagent here.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, what's going on? But not, some great players out of Division II, so it's like, But I was surprised they were so against Fields or for what? Bagent?
Baguette.
It's Bajan.
You guys make up
Baguette.
these names, and then I forget, and I'm tired to record this night. Baguette, Mustardson, pistachio, all food related. I'm starting to realize
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
what's going on over there. in
We're
your
hungry.
apartment.
We got no money for food.
Jacoby brisket.
How many are there? We got to make up.
There's a lot.
We gotta make a list of these. All right.
So I guess Caleb, you're gonna be up next. Jonathan will have the last pick since he's not on. He'll have to text him to me. But so you will have the second pick for your lock.
Lock. I had some challenges looking at them. A lot of games that I could really see going both ways. So you picked the Saints for a -7.5. I'm gonna go with wait, hold on 1 second. This is a tough one.
It's tough because the biggest spread I think is like Browns Cardinals.
Yeah.
And like
that's my problem is I don't pick teams off ethical reasons. So like I don't care for the Browns.
I didn't want to pick them either.
Yeah. And the Eagles, I just want to be able to enjoy the game, and if we lose, like that's one loss, not two. I lose as a fan, and then so it narrows it down for me when there's also a couple buys. I'm gonna go with what was it? I'm gonna go with the Bengals over the Bills.
That's a good one.
Wow.
That was probably the one I was gonna go with.
Wait.
Bengals are gonna win that game.
Wait, Bengals are favored?
By
yeah,
2.5.
well, they're at home.
Wow. Surprising.
close.
So you picked them as an upset last week. Now you pick them as a lock this week. What a
Wow.
difference.
High on the Bengals.
Yeah.
Well, on the contrary to Caleb, I am going to pick the Browns. They're going to beat
Really?
Tune. You think Clayton
No,
Tune is
probably,
going to
yeah.
win a game in Cleveland?
You think
against-
PJ Walker is going to win a game?
he's not going to have to do shit?
The Browns
The
defense
defense
is,
will win the game.
if I didn't have ethical, John, you're free to do whatever you want. I love to hate the Browns. I say this every week, so that's a fair pick.
So for my upset, I'm going to go with a team that I picked as my upset to lose because they couldn't get the job done.
I don't know what you're saying.
Really? Are you good, man? It's Halloween when we're recording, so then you're talking about food.
So last week I picked Steelers to upset the Jags, and they
Okay.
couldn't do it, and they were at home. Now the Steelers are at home again on Thursday night,
Gotcha.
facing Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans. So I'm going with the Titans over the Steelers plus
I like that.
3. Will Levis playing amazing. I picked the Steelers last week. They lose, so they're going to lose again. And if Will Levis has a terrible game, then man, oh man, are my powers so strong because he had 4 touchdowns and looked unstoppable. So it's only a couple days later. They're playing on Thursday. His powers shouldn't have worn off. So he should play amazing. And Mika Fitzpatrick isn't going to play. So the freaking deep ball is going to be wide open for Will Levis and DeAndre Hopkins. So I am not even worried about this week. I'm happy that I went 2-0 after going 0-2 for a while. So I am happy about that. Caleb, your upset.
Yeah, my upset. Some weird ones because I'm not going to pick them, but like the Rams are +3, but I think that's probably because Stafford's injured.
Yep. Day to day.
Yeah. Oh, just another team I'd never pick is the Commanders, just because I hate them too. So that's another option. I think for my upset, I want a game to watch. So I'm gonna go almost as a fun one for me to see the Vikings over the Falcons.
Whoa.
I like that.
I want to
like
see
that.
Dobbs. I'm fine if I'm competing against John, so there's always a little intensity there. But that's a game I'd like to watch in its entirety, see what Dobbs does. And thought we were riffing a little bit last week about the Falcons coach just not wanting to do well, not want to use his weapons. So on the one hand, if I'm wrong and they use Bijan enough to win, then he's on my fantasy team. So I think that's a game I could actually enjoy.
Interesting. Well, I'm going to be completely honest that I'm deciding between 2 games here. The 2 games that I'm deciding between is actually the 2 New York teams. The Giants are in Vegas to play the Raiders. Raiders are the only team in the NFL this season to not score over 21 points in a game. Daniel Jones just got cleared for contact, so he should be able to play. Now, the thing is, if he doesn't play, then I'm basically screwed because Tommy DeVito is going to be out there. Jets, on the other hand, are at home against the Chargers Monday night. We know Justin Herbert's going to struggle in that game against the Jets defense. That's obvious.
We know.
Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts threw 3 interceptions each. That means Herbert might get 6.
if I'm not saying we know, but if anything, Jared, that's a compliment from John that Herbert's considered so elite that you put him in the pile of what the Jets defense has done to other elite
Right,
quarterbacks.
exactly.
So in a way, that's kind of the compliment. That's the way I see it. I think he's elite, but you mentioned some great names, so.
Well, either way, I think both of them will
I had both on my
probably
list
happen.
too.
But I'm gonna go with my Giants. I'm gonna go with my Giants as the upset in Vegas. I
respect that.
I think the Raiders just pretty much suck right now. So
Yeah, they were both those are both good picks. I respect that. I know we're competitors, but the Giants for one, just considering how sad the Raiders are,
right.
and how much redemption I think Daboll needs, and he's the reigning coach of the year, so it's like this could give him something.
Right.
Good picks. Very good picks. We'll see what Jonathan picks. You'll have to stay tuned because we'll be posting on TikTok and on Instagram at Dornbay Podcast. So go throw us a follow over on there. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 5,000 subscribers. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave us a 5-star review. It helps us out a ton. Hopefully you enjoyed this Week 9 preview episode / trade deadline episode. And if you liked it, please leave a like down below. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and we will see you guys next week.